China has had its worst year in 27 years, and I'm not looking for that. But we had a deal with China, and they decided not to make that deal. They said, let's renegotiate. I said, no, thank you.
Well, that was President Trump at the White House today, touting American manufacturing and our economy as China is showing signs of cracking from the trade war. Will this get China back to the table and give stocks yet another big boost? Let's ask our market pros, Alan Nuckman, Danielle Shea, and Larry Glazer. I hear the bell ringing somewhere, Alan. That must be you.
Hey, new all-time highs once again.
Exactly. You know, they say when the market hits new all-time highs, a bell rings somewhere. So tell us exactly. I mean, the economy's on fire. The market's on fire. The bells won't stop ringing.
Right.
Let's talk about this. What does it say about us versus the rest of the world?
Well, we're seeing a market melt up. I think that, obviously we're leading the way. And when we get a rate cut, that'll be a cattle prod to give the market a little bit more boost for the bulls. Things look great from a technical standpoint. This is market momentum that's been going on 10 years. To get to the trade war, I think Mr. Trump was right. These are easy to win because he never said what actually the definition of a win is. He could claim victory at any time, and boom, the market's off and running because there was no specifics said that we had to achieve.
And yet, Danielle, President Trump is not going to settle for that. I think we all know that because he could have done it already. He could have done it many times. May was a tough month for the markets. He could have threw in the towel, accepted any deal, but he hasn't. In the meantime, China's economy continues to look very lackluster and very vulnerable.
Yes, that's correct. And I think that's absolutely proof that President Trump is doing the right thing. If we go all the way back to September, October, when the trade war first started to escalate, we were looking at the market and things were falling apart. But right now, looking at it here, we can see that President Trump is doing the right thing. Our economy remains strong, and now we're coming up on earnings season.
Larry, I'm reluctant to use the term Goldilocks because every time I do, the market goes down. But it's hard to find. I mean, there's always something to worry about, but it's hard to find anything big on a macro level to be, listen, our unemployment, wages, the market, investments, they look great.
Charles, you make a great point, and I think the contrast with China is what's so critical here. China posting its slowest growth in 3 decades, yet we have the longest economic expansion in U.S. history. And what's really important here is we want to keep that expansion going. We want to keep the global freight train moving. To do that, we want to get both parties to the table. We want to make a great deal for U.S. companies. We want to sell them, Charles, U.S. agricultural products, Caterpillar tractors, Otis elevators, KFC chicken, Starbucks coffee, Disney movies. We sell that to 1.4 billion Chinese consumers. We'll really have a victory on our hands, and U.S. companies, earnings, and stocks will all go higher, and it's going to help the middle class. That's the real end game we have to keep our eye on here.
Alan, I guess the trick right now, if you read the tea leaves and you listen to the experts, is how a final deal will have both leaders saving face in their respective countries and yet make some headways, to, not for free trade, but for fair trade.
Right, and I think it could be rather symbolic more than anything, like I said, without those specific outcomes predetermined. But let's look at what the markets are doing right now. We can see that the volatility has very much slowed. And if you look, there's an opportunity. FXI is the ETF that tracks China. They're 20% off their 2018 highs. So I think the global economy can recover. We've already moved past this issue, in my opinion, but I think there's opportunity in other areas that are really still concerned that this trade war could escalate further. But in reality, I think smart minds are going to come to the table.
Danielle, one thing that we keep saying also, the Hong Kong protests, they're not giving up there. Again, that's something that's putting pressure on China. Does that get them to the table sooner, and how much longer do you think this rally lasts?
I do think that it gets them to the table sooner because at the end of the day, what everybody wants is they want an answer to what's going to happen with this trade war. But the fact of the matter is that in the U.S., the economy is strong. We have our upcoming earnings reports. Particularly, look at Microsoft, for example. This company has been leading all year, new high after new high. Earnings coming out soon. So for us, I think stock market continues higher throughout July.
Yeah, Amazon had its prime day today, and that stock was up yet again.
Yep.
All right. Thank you all very much. Really